We're at Dr. Pink Field in Frisco, Texas, and USA Ultimate is proud to present the 2014 USA Ultimate National Championship in this men's semifinal between the Raleigh Ring of Fire and Boston Ironside. A look at our men's bracket in the Final Four, featuring a couple of big underdogs, not just the Raleigh Ring of Fire, but Toronto Goat as well. They play later against Johnny Bravo from Denver in this matchup between Ring of Fire and Ironside. Alongside the voice of Ultimate, Evan Lepler, I'm Wayne Randazzo, and Evan, this men's bracket got crazy here in the last couple of days.
Wayne, there's not a soul in the world who predicted this Final Four. To say that Revolver Machine and Sockeye would all be eliminated before the semis, you would have been crazy to say that before the tournament. I still can't believe it happened, but here we are, and one of these four teams is going to win their first ever USA Ultimate Championship.
And Ring of Fire, they will have done it with 2 losses under their belts so far in this tournament. As we take a look at how this Ring of Fire team got here with 2 losses in their first 3 games.
Well, they were certainly down on Thursday, but their head coach Mike DeNardis said, when it comes down to it, it really didn't matter because bracket play started on Friday. Everybody was still alive. They took down Machine and then defeated their regional rival Chain Lightning in the quarterfinals to get here. They'll be relying on Jonathan Nethercutt. If you watch College Nationals, you might remember him from North Carolina Darkside. He had some big puts in that semifinal win. He's going to be leading their offense today.
And yeah, that was Johnny Cash in their logo. So what? For Ironside, a team that's a little bit more used to this stage.
Well, absolutely. You know, they've been in this spot 7 years in a row. Their 7th consecutive trip into the semifinals, and the biggest prize has still proven to be elusive. But this could be the year. They're the highest remaining seed. They've got the Team USA captain, George Stubbs. He shifted to defense, trying to bring more firepower to the D-line. It's done that. The question is, can it take them all the way to the championship on Sunday?
An underdog special in this men's semifinal, including Raleigh Ring of Fire up against Boston Ironside. Winner moves on to a chance for their first ever national championship tomorrow. It's the opening pull coming up next in Frisco. The 2014 USA Ultimate Championships are brought to you by Discraft Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate. Ask your retailer today about Discraft Ultrastar. The Triple Crown Tour, America's most competitive and prestigious series of ultimate tournaments. And by USA Ultimate, the national governing body of the sport of ultimate in the United States. To learn more about USA Ultimate or to find out where to play in your area, visit usaultimate.org. Bringing you to a nice evening here in Frisco as we meet the Raleigh Ring of Fire with Dennis Teresi, John Nethercutt, Brian Casey, and Ken Porter, their cutters, Ben Dieter, Micah Hood, and Christian Johnson, the handlers for Mike DeNardis. And this Ring of Fire squad trying to get to the national championship game against an Ironside team that has been to the semifinals a whole bunch in the last several years. Perennial contenders with Matt Rebels, Josh Marquette, Brandon Malachek, Brian Garcia, their cutters, Will Neff, Danny Clark, Alex Capinos, and Josh McCarty, the head coach of Ironside.
We talked a little bit about Boston's history, 7 straight semifinals, but there may not be a more illustrious history in Ultimate without a title than Ring of Fire. One of the longest running clubs. This is the 25th season, founded in 1989. They've been to nationals 18 consecutive years. Finally made it to semis in 2012, but could not get that next couple steps to the championship game. They're really confident right now. Despite the slow start on Thursday, they've been trying to peak. And for the first time in 25 years, they have a coach. And Mike DeNardis has made a big difference for the Ring of Fire team from Raleigh.
And that first pull goes straight out of bounds, a lawn dart. And Ironside will start it off from where it went out of bounds. Didn't even make it to the brick mark.
Well, you may remember that's the strategy that Mike DeNardis used with North Carolina Darkside at Nationals. In this stadium environment, players are not allowed to be as close to the sidelines. Taylor Pope called for the aggressive foul on Matt Rebholz. He does not contest. And because of that, Ring likes to force them on the sidelines, and because the players aren't on the sidelines, they're not allowed to stop the disc as close to the sidelines as they could have before. And, well, if this was a basketball game, Taylor Pope would probably be on the bench because he's got 2 fouls in about 6 seconds.
Well, Wally Kwong, the head observer, Josh Cooper, Dan Lorella, and Julie Morris wearing the orange. Not to be confused with the orange and black of the Raleigh Ring of Fire. And away we go. Ironside's first possession gets started as Brian Garcia ends up with the near midfield. The one thing about that sideline kind of strategy they have on the opening pull is that it shortens the field, and it doesn't take very long for Ironside to get into the red zone because of it. That's Alex Capinos. He fires it about 15 yards backward to Will Neff. It's about as long of a backward pass as I've seen.
Good teams, confident teams, never afraid to give up yardage. The dump swing, probably the most important play in running a smooth, fundamental offense.
We see it all the time. 5, 6, 7, 8 yards back. That was a long strike backward to Will Neff. He's been pinned up against the sideline here by Noah Saul.
This is a different Boston team than you may remember from years past. Similar personnel, a few additions like Mark Sherwood and Brian Garcia, Thomas Sarah McCord. They've been difference makers, but guys shifting from the O-line to the D-line and vice versa. Will Neff and Brandon Malachek, primarily defensive line guys in the past. Now they're both running offense. This is Alex Capinos, who's been nursing a lower leg injury. It was questionable whether he would play. Obviously, he's out there throwing through the contact and into the end zone.
And it does count on a sliding catch, at least for the moment, to Matt Rebholz. As Rebholz goes down along the sideline. And for the moment, it does appear to be a catch. We'll see what there's a rule though.
I think this should be a goal. I mean, he threw the contact. This is a continuation play.
So away they will go after that.
All right, you want me to roll this or see a contest? Either of you can bring it to me.
The observer's wearing green. What's up with that?
Ring's wearing
Want me
orange.
to roll on this?
Normally the observers are in orange, but with Ring of Fire wearing some orange,
This will be a goal.
they're wearing green, and they call a goal for Ironside as Rebholz made that catch cleanly along the sideline.
I'll tell you, Wally Kwong, Julie Morris, Josh Cooper, Dan Laura, the observers for this game, they're going to have their hands full. As we've seen by this first point, Ring relies on its aggressive, in-your-face, and dare I say, often, or not often, occasionally dirty defensive tactics. That's the way they've played for a long time. You know, their spirit has been fine this tournament, but that's just their style of play. They love to get after it.
They must have some UNC Wilmington guys for you to be talking like that.
They do. They have some dark side guys. That's the North Carolina reputation.
What about Wake?
You know, we weren't good enough to have that reputation.
Matt Rebholz with the early goal for Ironside. And it's the Madison, Wisconsin native that gets Boston on the board first. This is the team that was expecting to be here. This is the team that is maybe the favorite of the Final Four now that all the top seeds are gone, including last year's champion Revolver.
And I think most would consider Johnny Bravo to be the true favorite. Bravo really dismantled Boston in poor play. Bravo has probably the most talent of anybody in the sport right now. But Boston is the higher seeded team, ranked fourth coming in. They were deservedly seated above Bravo coming into the weekend, although it was a meaningless 4 versus 5 in the pool of death, as they like to say, the 4, 5, 9, 16 pool, which Chain Lightning emerged out of to get in the quarterfinals. It's amazing we have, only 2 pools represented in the semifinals. The brackets were busted in the deep shot.
The flick, Huck scores it for Ring of Fire. And in the end zone, Dennis Teresi gets Raleigh on the board.
For years and years, this has been the Ring offense. Shoot it deep. Micah Hood, a beautiful flick. Now, Micah Hood's really improved his throws. He and Justin Allen came from the Appalachian State program. Probably 2 of the best players in App State history. And Hood is a guy who's been a torpedo of a defender and one of the most athletic guys on their D-line. But for him to put that offensively, really impressive. A confident-looking throw. And I must have seen Dennis Teresi go deep like that 20 times this weekend.
Teresi gets Ring of Fire on the board, and a good start for them. As you see how Ironside went 2-1 in Pool D. Johnny Bravo won that pool. They're in the other semifinal. They were undefeated throughout this tournament. But Boston Ironside with that one loss. Ring of Fire, though, 2 losses. They lost their first 2 games, including one to GOAT, the other underdog semifinalist. It's Ring of Fire on the board here to match Ironside for the first point of the game.
Yeah, Ring also lost to the new team from Pittsburgh, Temper, which was one of the great stories of the tournament. That Pittsburgh team, so many of the Pitt and Sabanur college guys, Tyler DiGirolamo, Alex Thorne, even the coach Nick Kazmarek was on the field on their D-line. But it was fun to watch them battle. I think they really could be a threat to the true top teams in the men's division in years to come. This was just their first year as a program following the short-lived Oakland Ultimate.
Winner goes to the men's national championship game tomorrow to play either GOAT or Johnny Bravo. As Ironside quickly again moves it up near the red zone.
I think most people agree, you know, in a vacuum, it's good to have different teams rising to the top. You want a lot of different teams that can get in there, and a powerful kick spike from Danny Clark. That is not necessarily in character for him. Usually a very even-keeled, mild-mannered guy, but he just won the Farraker Award. He's fired up.
This was a great throw to get it into Clark. A perfect strike. Looked like it came from Will Neff. And Ironside 2 for 2 on their first 2 possessions.
Sort of a cathartic kick spike, eluding the layout bid. You know, Danny Clark has become one of the leaders of this team, one of the longest tenured guys at Nationals. Between Danny Clark and Josh Marquette and Rings Taylor Pope, they've got nearly 40 years of consecutive Nationals experience. And it's been a tumultuous summer for Danny. He had a death in the family. He actually lost his sister this summer, prevented him from going to Worlds, prevented him from going to Pro Flight. To get him back on the field at regionals and to have him still at the peak of his powers, you know, never a total superstar, but a guy who has grown into his role as a very steady and reliable deep cutter for Josh McCarthy's team.
So Boston Ironside clicking on offense early, a team that can certainly score in a big way. So we take a look at their road to this semifinal, beating Austin in the first round, or rather in the pre-quarters round, that win over Double Wide, and then beating Portland Rhino in the quarterfinals. Portland Rhino was a surprise team to even make it that far.
To beat Sockeye the way they did, it was stunning, and looked like Ken Porter just took a couple fouls. George Stubbs, and then Mark Sherwood.
Ring of Fire also had a win over Seattle Sockeye. It was their first win of the tournament after starting 0-2.
Yeah, it was
to see Ken Porter go down here.
That was an interesting game because, you know, Sockeye had already locked up the top spot in the pool, and Ring had already locked up or been relegated to the bottom spot in the pool. So it was a meaningless game from seeding standpoint. But I do think that helped turn things around for Ring. They gained some confidence. And ever since that game, they have been on fire.
Another stoppage away from the disc, it looked like. That was a pick that was called.
You know, if Boston's going to win a title, Mark Sherwood is going to have a lot to do with it. One of the great players for Revolver for a long time. Basically moved to Boston. Ironside had a spot open up on their roster with Jeremy Nixon, the Harvard star, unable to come back from his injury. And they basically called Mark Sherwood and said, you want to play some defense? And this is not random pickup. He's probably one of the top 10 defensive players in the land.
Ring of Fire trying to even it up again. Another stoppage with some contact away from the disc. We saw that graphic just a moment ago. It's a non-contact sport, but sometimes there will be some shoving. Sometimes there'll be some hard collisions. We've seen a number of those already today. Along the sideline for Ring of Fire, John Nethercutt. Nethercutt forcing that one low past Ken Porter. And the first turnover of the game as Ironside will have a chance to get a couple points ahead. Quite a look on Nethercutt, by the way. He's got quite the Fu Manchu.
Yeah, you know, most of the Ring guys have mustaches, but I think Nethercutt wins the most creepy mustache award.
And we saw him at the college championships. He was very clean cut, shaved head almost.
And a team misconduct foul, the blue card, TMF, issued to Christian Loritz. who's been a nice addition to this Ring team, a one-year transplant for Estonia. He's got a job in the Triangle area, North Carolina. They hope to keep him around. He's been, as Mike DeNardis calls him, an unsung hero on our O-line. He previously played, some international disc with Ragnarok.
So what does that team misconduct foul mean?
It could have been for any number of things: over-aggressive marking, fast count. Basically, not following the rules as Stubbs unleashes one deep, and that's why he's on the D-line.
An incredible diving catch by John Stubbs. And Ironside a quick 3-1 lead.
The brotherly connection for Boston. The first time they've ever gotten a chance to play together. I remember talking to Josh McCarthy before the U.S. Open. He said the potential for John Stubbs is limitless. And we might see that in the SportsCenter Top 10 later tonight. George Stubbs, the national icon, to his younger brother John, who's just becoming a mainstream star himself despite being so young and so early in his Harvard career.
Catch of the day so far, John Stubbs at the tip of his dive to haul that one in. And a great start here for Boston Ironside. Really a start Ring of Fire didn't want to be playing from behind in this one. That full extension.
I think Josh McCarthy felt that in years past, specifically last year, the defensive line was able to force turnovers, but it wasn't able to sufficiently capitalize on those turnovers. Break chances, such a huge and important stat. I think George Stubbs also gives the Boston D-line the opportunity to match up one of the best man-on-man defenders in the world with the other team's top guy. We saw him guarding Ken Porter earlier this weekend. He's been guarding any number of guys. Jimmy Mickle, Will Driscoll.
How controversial of a move is that to take one of your best offensive players and stick them on defense?
It definitely can be jarring for a team. And I think it was Josh McCarthy's idea, and he went to the captains and discussed it. And I think it took some people a little while to buy in. But in moving Brandon Malachek and Will Neff to the O-line, you replace a Callahan Award winner in Stubbs and another guy in Neff who also won the Callahan Award. So they've got the horses to do it. But adding Stubbs and Sherwood to the D-line have really made a difference.
Nethercutt almost turned it over. A sliding catch by Brian Casey to keep the possession for Raleigh. Terrence Mitchell, one of the youngest players in this tournament, only 19 years old.
Stubbs out there this time chasing Christian Johnson. One of the key guys who helped lead Dark Side to the finals before falling to Colorado Mama Bird, and so many of those guys now on Johnny Bravo. Guys like Mickle and Morrissey and Peterson.
Nice catch there by Micah Hood a couple of times already, and now Hood goes with the deep hawk all the way across the field and finally floating out of bounds. As Sidorsky for Boston ended up being the closest one to it. That one just sailed. Now Ironside taps it back in, already with a 3-1 lead. As George Stubbs begins the possession, and a huck, a long throw from one side of the field to the other. A flick there that completes to Russell Wallach.
Rusty Ingold Smith, the primary pivot handler for the Boston D-line. He's a UNC Wilmington alum himself.
George Stubbs back with it. He had the connection to his brother John on the last point for Ironside. Trying to score again. Stubbs along the sideline. Looking end zone, they connect. Jamie Quella in the end zone, but this one might be coming back. It will not be a goal. It will come back. I believe a pick was called. George Stubbs with the easy floater. Quella uncontested in the end zone. No point there for Ironside, at least not yet.
Stubbs lefty backhand to Wallach.
Now right on the cusp of that fourth point. is Boston Ironside. Back to George Stubbs it goes. And another stoppage here, another pick called away from the play.
So George Stubbs is that rare guy who's a big playmaker, but he is also a very reliable caretaker of the disc. You can trust him to make the right decision in the red zone in a situation like this. Look at that stash on Nut, as they call him, Nethercutt.
A lot of lip hair there.
Could we get away with that on television? Will Ferrell did.
He looks like he could pitch in the 1982 Yankees bullpen.
Perhaps he did.
There's the point for Boston Ironside, right on the edge of the goal line. It counts for Misha Sidorsky. And Ironside has jumped out to a big lead early.
Boston has been very, very sharp.
Mistakes early on from Ring of Fire, and Ironside has capitalized on all of them. A wide open shot there for Sidorsky. And Ironside clicking early as they lead 4-1.
Boston has not turned the disc over yet.
4 different goals from 4 different players.
And, you know, Raleigh, through the past 24 hours in particular, really going back to yesterday morning, Ring has relied on its defense. You know, they feel like if their offense can be okay, then they're going to win because they have what they feel like is a stronger defense. But I'm not sure they faced an offense that's been as in sync as this Boston team right now. And Boston's O-line is getting a lot of rest on the sidelines. Danny Clark, Matt Rebholz, Cricket, Josh Marquette, Alex Capinos, they're relaxing comfortably after another break.
You see it all the time in tournament formats where the underdogs get hot, they go deep, and then they run into reality a little bit.
They hit a wall. Second TMF was just called on Ring, so that's their last warning. Another TMF would be a yardage penalty. Nethercutt wants Bode. Nope.
Matt Bode unable to track it down. He goes all the way up into the crowd after hopping over some of the barriers there. So Matt Bode making new friends as Boston Ironside's going to get it back here.
Bode was on the semifinal team 2 years ago. Didn't play for Ring last year.
Right up into the second row.
Great athlete, fiery character. And now they're going deep and too deep for John Stubbs.
Series of turnovers. It goes right back to Ring of Fire.
First turnover for Boston.
This is really their first chance to capitalize as Boston hasn't made any mistakes. Might as well take a chance, though. If you're Ironside, everything going right. Good opportunity to let one rip, maybe steal a point. That's Nethercutt. As time is called, Nethercutt was so impressive with his puck-throwing ability in the college championships. It looked like that then as he turns it over here. Nethercutt's turned it over a couple of times early in this one. Just out of the reach.
Couldn't hit his former dark side teammate Tristan Green.
So now it goes again for Ironside. Already with a big lead. Nethercutt couldn't stop that from happening. And now right on the goal line, play is stopped.
Looks like there's a pick in the stack. That would be my guess.
So we'll come back near midfield as it goes to Alex Simmons. Observers wearing green in this one, not to be confused with the orange and black of Ring of Fire. The Johnny Cash emblem, one of the oldest teams in Club Ultimate in the world, dating back to 1989. Well, they've never won the national championship. They've gotten here certainly plenty of time.
18 straight trips to nationals. Nationals 22 of the last 23 years, representing what used to be the Atlantic Coast, now it's the Southeast.
That long streak in the NBA where the Portland Trailblazers made the playoffs for 20-some straight years and never won the big one.
It almost happened to the Atlanta Braves in the 90s. Bobby Cox got one.
Nice kick out of bounds by Ken Porter. You don't see the feet coming into play much on D, but Porter sticks the foot out at the right time.
Little soccer shot. Ken Porter's one of the most exciting guys to watch in Ultimate, and that's just a fact.
Now a huck and a chance to go deep. Ring of Fire trying to get on the board. There's a foot in bounds for Jared Bowen. It is, and a point for Bowen and Raleigh. After the Porter kick save, a beauty for Ring of Fire.
Tristan Green lets it fly this time. Wasn't exactly sure where the back end zone line was. All the different painted colors down on the field. It's the red line that he had to stay shy of the back of the end zone, and he did it easily. These two teams have not played each other since the U.S. Open in Raleigh 2013, and that was a classic game. Boston and Ring went back and forth. Ironside ended up winning by one, then falling to Revolver in the championship game, and another tight one.
See the field dimensions, 20 yards deep in the end zone, and Bowen got about 19 yards back to make that catch and get a point for Ring of Fire. So Ironside has the lead of 4-2. And Ring of Fire, after Ironside's turned it over a couple of times, able to get in the end zone. Short pull, and now on a quick turnover as Marquette dropped basically a handoff.
Ring needs to capitalize here. This is a gift.
They were right next to each other. Marquette just seemed to take his eye off it as Noah Sol was fouled by Clark.
I think Noah called timeout, and they're just deciding when the stall count is going to come back in on.
Timeout called by Ring of Fire as they trail 4-2 in this first half. Some of the different terms in this game. A poach. What does a poach mean?
When regarding someone, you leave your man to pick up somebody else to help out defensively. That's referred to a poach. Part of team defense overall. You can get burned for poaching, but it also can be an effective tool. And you know, the Callahan, one of the most exciting plays, along with the greatest. Callahan, if the defense catches it in the end zone for a score. And obviously the greatest, jumping out of bounds, catching the disc in the air and throwing it back inbounds to a teammate before you land. We saw greatest on this field yesterday in the men's quarterfinals. One of the top players for San Francisco Revolver, Cassidy Rasmussen, had a spectacular greatest to Zach Travis on a Lucas Dahlman huck that hovered out of bounds on the far sideline and hit a 3-0 Revolver. I walked away from that game at that point, Wayne, because I thought Revolver's up 3-0.
Once you see the greatest, what do you need to stick around?
Well, I thought Revolver was going to cruise into the semifinals, and well, Toronto Goat had other ideas. They took half 8-7, won 13-12, shocking the world champs, the national champs, and you know, the true powerhouse in the sport. Spent more time before this weekend talking with people about the Revolver system, and well, that's preparation that goes for naught as Ring gets back within one.
That's a big point for Raleigh. It's Shane Cisco who gets it for the Ring of Fire.
Capitalizing on the gift. Now Boston's still up by one.
Consecutive points for this Ring of Fire team as Shane Cisco nails it down for Raleigh. This Ring of Fire team, it's got the Raleigh name, but they really represent the entire state of North Carolina. They've grabbed and mashed together a team from all different teams throughout the state of North Carolina.
Well, there's a lot of great Ultimate in North Carolina, and you know, I'm a little biased, of course, but you know, Dark Side, NC State, you know, ECU and Wilmington have always been strong, fiery programs in the East. Duke, Davidson, Elon, Appalachian State, UNC Asheville, Wake Forest has produced a couple good players through the years. A couple annoying broadcasters as well, at least one.
You see Ring of Fire's road to the semis. They went 1-2 in Pool C, but they got that win over Chicago Machine in the pre-quarters. And then Chain Lightning went down in the quarterfinals. Really surprised. Chicago Machine was solid in pool play. They went down against this Ring of Fire team that suddenly caught fire and has made its way to the semifinals. Down 4-1 early here. They've scored the last two. Right back in and not allowing Ironside to run away early.
Talking about that Ring Machine matchup, I chatted with Mike Donardis on Thursday night before that game, and despite their frustrating day, he expressed great confidence. He said, we like the matchup with Machine. In fact, we've never lost to Machine. And he used to coach Machine and play for Machine, so he knows all about Machine Ultimate, knows how good they were this year with the influx of the Madison guys, Dave Wiseman, Tom Annan, Pat Schreiwise. It's going to be interesting to see what those guys do now that Machine is no longer in the pro flight. One of the reasons they jumped from Madison Ultimate was to join the team in the pro flight, and the deep shot defended.
And clutching at his ankle after that play. Down on the field for Ring of Fire. Appears to be...
It's Justin Allen.
And he seems to be okay. It is Justin Allen. Grabbed his left ankle immediately, but seems to be fine now. Went up, he had it for a while. And then all that contact there to knock it loose. You see him kind of rolling over on his left ankle, which he clutched immediately, but now seems fine. And he won't even leave the game. He's going to stay in.
Let's move on.
So the foul was called. The catch counts for Allen. And now Ring of Fire can tie this game.
Great defensive play. I've really grown to enjoy watching Justin Allen play. He takes the field with such a youthful exuberance and energy. He and Micah Hood, as I mentioned, came from the Appalachian State program. And Justin Allen finished in the top 5 in the Callahan Award for a team that did not make nationals, which is hard to do.
A floating disc pulled down by Mullen. After a 3-0 run, Ironside had the lead. Now they get it right back.
Taylor Pope a little over aggressive, and the underneath D made by Justin Allen.
A great play there by Allen, and Ring of Fire trying to secure a 3-0 run of their own to tie this game. Along the sideline it goes to Gratella. Red zone chance for Ring of Fire, looking to tie it for the first time since it was 1-1. And they're right on the edge now as Allen makes that catch.
All through the years, Ring has been a team that has been very much momentum fed. And this is a moment that Ring can rally behind, looking for a 3-0 rally to tie it up. It was indeed a pick.
Ruling a pick, so Allen will have to stick it backward as it goes back to Noah Saul. Ring of Fire trying to even the score. Ironside led 4-1 without even at that point turning the disc over. They had not turned it over once. Now after some miscues, Ironside leads by only 1, and Ring of Fire right on the brink of a tie game. And on the sideline, it's unable to be caught by Allen. So Ironside catches a break. They get it back with the lead still.
Boston expects its offensive line to deliver in a situation like this. Boston caught a break. That should have been an upline score. The throw was a little too far ahead. Allen couldn't make a sensational catch.
Ironside taps it back in as they look for a big point after Raleigh was unable to connect in the end zone. Leaping grab there by Capinos. dump it back. It's Jacob Taylor who flings it across the side of the field to Brian Garcia. Looking to set up their position on offense, Malachek. As this one will come back. Marquette making that catch, but he'll zoom it backward. After another pick was called, so Ironside back to it on offense with Jacob Taylor, the 6'4", 27-year-old Taylor. Pressure from the side, he gets it off, and the disc comes loose there at the end, but that catch will stand. As Cisco knocked it away after the catch was already made, and Will Neff will tap it back in after that miscue. Cisco on the mark in front. Nice catch there by Taylor. Zooms it past his intended target along the sideline in the end zone. Just out of the reach of Capinos.
Both teams have been on the brink. This is Boston's first red zone turnover. Not a lot of margin for error on that throw. So close to the sideline, the defender trailing tightly. This point has taken a bunch of twists and turns.
Really, the longer it goes, the more it favors Ring of Fire. Another chance to tie this game and make it 3 straight points for them. Now Boston Ironside, a team that has been to this point many consecutive years into the semifinals ever since 2008. They've gotten this far. They've even made a few trips to the championship game without actually coming away as national champions. They would like to finish this off and get their names etched into that trophy for the first time.
Finals
White Hustle, please.
appearances in 2008, 2010, 2011. They had to the semis in 2009, 2012,
Is everyone here set?
2013.
When they're ready.
Really great job by
We're live,
Boston
20
Ironside
on the
to
clock.
be a part of this as often as they have. At some point, you're tired of just being a bridesmaid. A long huck and a connection.
Interception.
Jordan Marquette picks it off. Now Thomas Sayer McCord.
Former ring player.
Garcia swings it back over, and that one's floating away, but it's caught anyway. Not by the intended target, but Russell Wallach saves the possession. Marquette flicks it to the sideline. Garcia looks for the end zone, and he finds Will Neff for the score.
Will Neff, a mainstay on Ironside, discovered by Garcia, former Bay Area star. Jam, Revolver, and Blackbird. Ironside able to hold to stay up a break and make it 5-3. Will Neff, one of the hundreds of phenomenal players to come from Amherst, Massachusetts. I had the honor yesterday of finally meeting the architect of one of the great high school programs in the world, Tina Booth. Had a long conversation with her about her career in coaching, in playing. She's now coaching the UMass men. She told me that she coached from 1990 to 2013 at Amherst. Coached guys like Will Neff and Sam Canner, and now coaching a guy like Jeff Babbitt at UMass, another burgeoning defensive star. The news broke that she was retiring on UltiWorld. And 45 minutes after the story went up, someone from UMass called to see if she would be interested in coaching. So she tried to retire, and they pulled her back in. She said no 3 times. They called a 4th time, and the 4th time became the charm. She finally said yes. They crafted a deal that she wouldn't have to go to every tournament. She said, come to practice, and if we make it to nationals, you got to come to nationals. And this year, for the first time in ages, UMass went to nationals, and Tina Booth was on the sideline. It was pretty cool to see her and get to talk to her yesterday.
Nethercutt couldn't reach that one as Ironside gets it back very quickly after a goal. Ring Ring of Fire's had chances in this first half, but unable to connect on a couple close calls. And Ironside on the hammer here, looking for the end zone, and they will not be able to call this a goal because it's coming back.
Unaffected?
A pick was called. The question is, was Rusty Ingold Smith's defender involved in the play?
Okay.
I'm sure Ring of Fire will say yes.
Boston arguing this is a goal, and it will be.
It counts for Rusty Ingold Smith. On the hammer throw, it comes from George Stubbs.
That's an impressive throw, but it's a routine one for someone of Stubbs' caliber. And a pick is not a pick until it's officially recognized by the thrower. Even though the defense stops here, and by the way, I'm not thrilled about this rule. Defense completely stopped, but the disc went up in the air. If you're Ring, you got to try to make a play on that. Nobody did, and it was an easy score, a gift of a score for Rusty Ingold Smith.
Yeah, you see the Ring of Fire defenders there just standing around as play was presumably halted. But a goal nonetheless for Rusty Ingold Smith. Ironside's up 6-3. First to 8 sends this one to halftime and puts Ironside half away potentially from another trip to the championship game. Ring of Fire is trying to get there as well. They've never won a national championship. Neither has Ironside, but they've certainly had a few close opportunities. See the wind here. Well, we haven't really seen the wind play a big factor in this day of games. It's certainly been a fairly windy day.
Yeah, it's been more of a crosswind, so we haven't had that upwind, downwind mentality. By the way, George Stubbs just picked up his 3rd assist playing the D-line. 3 D-line assist breaks. The strategy to put him in that spot has been a wise one from Josh McCarthy and Ironside.
It certainly worked today.
Now at times when, the offensive line has struggled. Their game against Bravo in pool play, the O-line really struggled, and I wasn't so certain that the decision was the right one. But since then, it's proved to be the correct choice.
Looking for the back of the end zone, a diving catch. And it's good for Ring of Fire as Christian Loritz hauls it in.
Not every day you see a horizontal Estonian making a play at Nationals. Christian Loritz in his first year with a Ring program. And this was released and it went over the defender's head. Thought it was going to be a goal, but then it just dove quickly and Loritz needed to get on the ground as well. That's Ben Dieter with a put. Guy who's had a long, illustrious career, but at 32 years old, this is his first time playing with Ring of Fire at Nationals. Dieter, a guy who's been a fantastic leader in North Carolina Ultimate, played collegiately at ECU.
I think Loritz knows who Johnny Cash is, being from Estonia.
Who doesn't know who Johnny Cash is?
Maybe he does now, but do you think you knew who he was before he got on this team?
I'll ask him after the game.
Big point there for Ring of Fire after
really was.
Ironside had scored a couple in a row. As Ring of Fire, at the very least in this first half, has stayed close. A deep pull this time. We've seen them bang it on the ground a few times. This one dies a little bit short of the brick mark. Marquette with possession for Ironside along the sideline.
I feel like Boston's in control of this game, and Josh Marquette really hasn't been a factor. There are times when he has single-handedly picked team apart with his speed and his elusiveness. Such a versatile player, can handle, but he's also a very dynamic downfield cutter, and he's a guy who's getting up there in age, and he's been playing forever. Boston for many years, and before that with Chain Lightning. He came from the Paideia School, another great high school program led by Michael Baccarini. That's George Stubbs' high school history as well. Dylan Tennell. A lot of great players from the Atlanta area, Paideia. Marquette had 15 assists in the first 5 games of the tournament for Boston, none so far today.
Marquette with possession here in front of Tristan Green. Trying to discuss this last foul, and now the observers will step in. When there's a dispute, the observers are there to solve such a dispute.
It's Julie Morris, who's actually the head observer here in Frisco. A job that in the past has often been held by a fellow by the name of Mitch Dengler. I've seen him in every Ultimate event I've been to over the past couple of years, but I was told he is currently scuba diving in the Galapagos. Which
beat that.
I guess is a reasonable excuse to miss nationals, but then again, this is nationals. He's a very good observer, too.
Oh, a juggling catch by Clark, who was lucky to hang on to it. He juggled it 3 times before going to the turf to make the catch.
Rings arguing that he didn't hang on. We'll get the first look.
1 bobble, 2, 3, and finally able to secure it there. He certainly caught it.
Yeah, unquestionably, he was able to haul that in, although it wasn't easy.
It's not the way he was hoping to make that catch. Just an easy flip.
Looks like Alex Simmons may have just taken a sub for an injury. George Stubbs came on the field. It's a nice addition.
Boston Ironside able to put it back in.
And Ring's going to counter. Joey Cretella comes in to guard Stubbs, replacing Hunter Taylor.
Hunter Taylor, who wears number 02. Not just the traditional 2, it's got the 0 in front of it. Benito Santiago used to wear number 09.
Oh,
A nice flip to the end zone. The scuba to Danny Clark.
that is such a spectacular play. The proliferation of the scuba has really transformed the game, and nobody does it better than cricket. He knew that he had a lot of space to work with, and Danny Clark has the size to make the play. You know, he probably could have faked the scuba there and gotten the flick, but you know, the timing of the play might have been just a smidge off, so he went with a scuba.
And I think what's lost in the play is the great cut by Clark to the end zone.
There's no question about it. Totally burned his defender, faked the in cut. You know, young Ultimate players never stop running. You know, if you think you're covered, run the other way. That was Josh McCarthy's style, the head coach of Ironside, and Danny Clark told this to me, so I think he was ragging his coach a little bit, but he would say Josh McCarthy never got open on his first cut. He had to run 100 yards to get open. But he was the type of guy who could run for days and days and days, and because of that, he was a very impactful offensive holding cutter. Now a very wise coach, and his team's 1 point away from half.
First to 8 sends it to halftime. Ironside getting close. Raleigh needs a score. Ring of Fire team has stayed with Ironside largely in this first half, but a couple of things that have not gone their way put them in a bit of a hole. That's Porter.
Boston's done a nice job with its flat marks preventing the huck, especially after the first few points when Ring connected. Russell Wallach doing a really good job on Nethercutt.
Nethercutt's got a great arm. He can really fire it deep, but he's been limited so far in this one. He's also made a few mistakes on shorter throws. As a pick is called here, we'll go back to Jonathan Nethercutt.
It's a great defensive matchup right here with Wallach on Nethercutt.
Side force on Nethercutt. The semifinal matchup. Raleigh trying to advance to the championship game for the first time. And Nethercutt again turns it over on a short throw. A great deep threat, but the short throws have not been connecting tonight. This is Russell Wallach for Ironside. Now Jeff Babbitt. Time has stopped here. Play has stopped, rather.
Hey, yes, Boston
One thing, the Ironside offense, when there is a stoppage, they keep going.
Hey, Rusty, you're back.
We saw that burn Ring of Fire already once today. They stopped playing what they thought was a pick.
You got to be in on one.
Being a score.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, on one.
Jeff Babbitt matched up with Christian Johnson.
Now the hands of George Stubbs looking for a point right to the edge of the goal line. And it is a goal. The only guy who seemed to know it was Jack Hatchett, who scored it. Everybody else was kind of waiting to see what the observers would say. But it is a goal, and it is halftime as Ironside strikes with an 8-4 lead.
Jack Hatchett, the former Elephant Man from Tufts, taking Boston Ironside to half. 4 for 5 on break chances in that first half. George Stubbs helping Boston capitalize yet again.
We take a look at our Discraft Ultrastar play of the half as Ironside jumps out to this big lead. They're up 8-4 on Ring of Fire. And George Stubbs, a connection to his brother John Stubbs. Look at John on the diving catch.
We're going to see that connection for a long time. And John Stubbs is only going to keep getting better.
Josh McCarthy is the head coach of Ironside as he joins us now. And coach, a big first half. We just saw a play where the Stubbs brothers connected on a great throw from George to John Stubbs with a diving catch. You had to like what you saw from your team in the first half.
Yeah, the D is really bringing a lot of fire. They are making Ring really work. Some unforced errors out of Ring, but you know, there's some wind. And in this stadium environment, there's a lot of pressure, and we're forcing them to execute. Fortunately, we've gotten some of those turns, and our D-line execution has been solid other than that one point where we threw a couple of them away.
Josh, I remember watching you guys, I think it was in pre-quarters last year against Columbus Mad Cow, and you got so many turnovers, but you couldn't put it in, you couldn't capitalize. 4 out of 5 on break chances in the first half. How'd you do it?
Well, the personnel on that D-line is really strong on both sides of the disc, and you know, we're taking our shots. You saw the Stubbs connection, but you know, that last point, Jack Hatchett busts deep, George Stubbs throws a huge pump fake, and we go boom, boom, boom across the field. All of a sudden, we're knocking on the doorstep to score another one.
How do you feel about that Josh Marquette scuba into the end zone for Danny Clark?
That's a quick shot right there. He's got every throw in the book.
Coach, the way this thing has worked out, you guys are now the top seed left on the men's side. Do you smell your first national championship?
I think it's quite premature for that. Well, not only do we have a half to play, we got a point coming out of half to play, and we'll go point by point.
All right, Coach. Good luck.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Josh
Josh.
McCarthy. Boston Ironside as they're up 8-4 on Ring of Fire from Raleigh. It's halftime in Frisco. More to come from Dr. Pink Field.